Okay, now let's continue. Let's calculate the insurance payment and the insured payment. So for the insurance payment, I'm gonna use the function that I talked about. Let me start with equal to if the value here, the value here, the loss minus the deductible. Okay, before I even do that, let me create a function. Let me write the deductible, the values of the deductible, and the others. So here we know that the deductible is supposed to be. So let me write here deductible, and here the coinsurance factor, and here the benefit limit. So here, if the deductible is 100,000, the coinsurance is 0.6 or 60%. The benefit limit is 300,000. Okay. So let me format that real quick. Okay, this is the format. All right. Now going back here. Okay. Now I have this. So in addition to this, I'm going to talk about absolute referencing. So let's say I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, these are x, and here I want to have x plus 3. To each values here, I would like to add 3. So what I can do, I can let's say I put 3 here. Okay, what I can do is to write equals to that value here plus the 3 that is over here, and I press enter. Now I'm gonna have 4. As you can see, 1 plus 3 is equal to 4, and I want to apply this same formula to every cell in here, and I drag it down like this, and as you can see, those values did not change. This one has changed, but this one did not apply the formula. Here what happened is, when I drag it down, Excel did M9 is the value here. Okay, M9 plus P5 the value here, okay, which is 3. Now these are the cells. Okay, now the next one here, what is happening is that when I drag it down, Excel increase also. It's like it's increasing. This is M9 plus P5. When I drag it, it goes to M10 plus P6. So it does M10, which is here, which is 2, plus P6, which is here, which is nothing. So 2 plus nothing is nothing. So what I want is, and it continues, M6, M11 plus P7. P7 is here, it doesn't change. Next, P8, P9, P10. Okay, so what I've noticed is that when I drag it down, the values here, so Excel did the calculation of this one here plus to each corresponding values in here, but it starts here, there is a 3, but the others there is nothing. So what I want is, I want Excel to actually do the following: M9, so the value here plus the value here, but without, and I want to drag it down, and when I drag it down, I don't want the value here to change to P6. I want it to still be at P5. Okay, but here I have P5, so I want these values here to change, like M10, M11, all of that, but I do not want the P5 to change. I want the calculation to be always going back to P5. So what I'm going to do is the following: I'm going to lock this cell. I'm going to make sure that it doesn't move when I drag it down. To do so, I do the following. This is what we call referencing. I go to the value P5 here, and I put a $sign. So here what's going to happen is, if I drag across the column, it will not change. Okay, now I need to and then I need to make sure that I put also a $sign in here, so that if I drag across the rows, it will not change. Okay, so here what it does is it fixes the cell. So it's gonna be M9 plus this cell that is fixed, and when I drag it down, this is going to change, M10, 11, all of that, but this is not going to change. It will be fixed to this one. Okay, this is what we call referencing. So I can now drag it down. As you can see, everything will be 5 5. As you can see, 2 plus 3 is 5, 3 plus 6 is 5, 4 plus 3 is 7. Okay, as you can see, these values are changing. Okay, but this one is fixed. Okay, M9, M10, 11, but this one doesn't change. Okay, this is what I've done. This is what we call absolute referencing. Okay, so what I could have done also was plus this one. Now to do the absolute referencing, you can press with your keyboard F4. If but some computer, for some computer you have to press simultaneously Fn and F4 like this. Okay, and you obtain, and then that will automatically change this. And then I drag it down as usual. Okay, I have this now. So yeah, so what I was saying was, you take F4 in your keyboard. When you press it, some computers have F4. So if you press F4 on the cell, it will automatically put the $sign to actually lock in your cell. Okay, we call it locking in the cell. Now the next, so for some other computer, you have to press Fn and F4. Okay, so for example, if your computer have like double function, so you see that there is F4 here, there, and then your F4 has another function of decreasing the sounds. Okay, so in that case, you press simultaneously Fn and F4, and what's gonna happen, you will have the locking in process taking place. Okay, so F4 here, Fn. So yes, so that was how to actually row reference to actually lock in the cell. Okay, so here we've locked in the 3 here, and then we add every values in those cells to the 3. Okay, delete. All right. Okay, so going back here, let's apply the formula. Equals to if the loss equal to if the loss is less than the deductible. So the deductible is here, K2. I'm gonna lock the deductible. I'm gonna lock the deductible so that it will not actually vary, because if I drag it down, because I want to drag it down, so if I drag it down, what's gonna happen, the values will go down 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 like this. So I'm gonna lock it. I'm gonna press my F4. Okay, I lock it. Now if the loss is less than the deductible, the function has to return a 0. Otherwise you return 0.6, the coinsurance. I go to the coinsurance here, I fix it, make sure that it doesn't move. So F4, and then multiply my coinsurance locked in, multiply by the loss minus the deductible, and I'm going to lock in the deductible also, Fn, and then F4. Okay, so the loss minus my deductible, and I close the parentheses, and I close the parentheses for the if function, for the if statement. And then what I need, so this is like the first step. Okay, this is what I get. And then what I'm going to do is to apply now the second formula. The second formula was to find the minimum value. Okay, so minimum of this and 300,000. Okay, now I'm gonna drag it down. What I can do, I can drag it down all the way down. It's gonna take forever, but what I can do is to double click. I come here and it will form like a cross like this. Like if I move, I have this. Now I come to, as you can see, there's a small square. I come here and then I double click, and then that will be applied to every subsequent, every following cells. Double click and I have this. Okay, I can format this by centering it here. As you can see, center text, it centers. Okay, as you can see, this is what I get. Okay, now the insured payment is simply is equal to the loss minus the deductible. Okay, so here I don't need to lock anything in. I want for every loss, I want to do every loss minus every deductible. So all I have to do, oops, no, loss minus deductible. Okay, and then I press enter. Okay, now I want to, as you can see here, let me go back to the first formula here. As you can see here, the formula is being applied. K2 meaning the deductible is fixed, and then 0.6 here is fixed. Loss minus deductible, or to 3000. As you can see, the values, if like these values are changing, but what is fixed is the deductible 0.6, with 0.6, which is here the coinsurance, and this one K this. Okay, let me do something further. Instead of having to write this, let me enter this cell over here. The benefit limit is here 300,000. Okay, so I press this one, 300,000, and then I'm going to lock it. Okay, and I press enter and I apply the formula, double click, and I have this. Alright, center. Now I'm gonna apply the same rules here. I double click, I come here, as you can see there is a small square form, there is a cross. Once I have the cross over here, I can double tap, double click, double tap, and I have this. So automatically it does the calculations for me. Okay, now save. So here that actually represents question number 3 and question number 4. Okay, in question number 3 you are asked to calculate all the payment the insurance is going to make to each customer. So here is what we have for the payment for each customer. The insurance payment is this 300,000, this. So this customer who has this loss, the insurance paying that, etc. So as you can see, all of the losses are the following, are appearing here. Now the insured payment is what the losses minus the insurance payment, as you can see it in here. Okay, so if I go to my insert sheets here, as we can see the payment here, this is what you can write. The payment can be seen on the Excel spreadsheet. Calculate the payment that each client is going to make. The payment can be seen in the Excel spreadsheet. Okay, because these are two, like calculate all the payments, that you cannot put it on your report because it's a lot of numbers. Okay, so you can directly put it on your Excel. So now let's do the other calculation. Let's say calculate the mean and of the losses and the standard deviation of the losses. So let's calculate the mean. So with the mean, let me write mean here, standard deviation, and the losses here, the insurance payment, and then now as you can see it went above. Like I can double like I started to write the word insurance in the cell I7. Okay, in cell I7 I have this, so let me expand this, okay, so that it can fit within the cell, and then insurance payment, and then insured payment. I can draw a box around these. I go here, I can change the type of box that I want. I want all borders. I press here. Here I can actually have it in bold characters, okay, bold, and here also in bold characters for the mean. So to find the mean, I press equal average. The average function is allowing you to calculate the mean average of all of the losses in here. So control shift down, I select all of them, enter, and I have this. Now what's good, I know that here the average, I want to apply the formula. Here I want to apply the formula to insurance payment. So here I can see that if I drag it across like this, I obtain these values over here. I obtain these values. Yes. Now, as you can see, this is the average from B2 to B501. So the average from B2 all the way to 501. So as you can see, I was able to apply the formula across the rows to obtain this value. Now for the standard deviation, I'm going to write the formula equal to standard deviation. As you can see, there are two types of standard deviation. Standard deviation here, the standard deviation function is appearing. As I type std for standard deviation, okay, I can see that there are different types of standard deviation. Here it tells me what this function does. Estimate the standard deviation based on a sample, ignores logical values and text in the sample. Okay, well, here we have an entire population of losses. We do not have a sample of losses. Okay, so here what we're going to use is this one. Calculate standard deviation based on the entire population given as argument. So here we're using the standard deviation of a population. So I come here, I click this one, std_dev_p, and I select this value here, control shift down, and I close my parentheses, and that will calculate automatically my standard deviation for the losses. Okay, now I want to do the same calculation here and here, so I drag it across like this, and it does the calculation automatically. So that calculates standard deviation of B2 to B500. So using these values calculate standard deviation, etc. So now we have the mean for the losses, standard deviation of the losses, the mean of the insurance payment, and the standard deviation of the insurance payment, the mean of the insured payment, and the standard deviation of the insured payment. So let me go quickly on the instruction. Here you have the data set named tutorial data in Excel, in the Excel spreadsheet, represent all the losses incurred by several clients. It didn't say a sample of losses, but it said it represent all the losses. So here we are dealing with the entire population of losses. Okay, so when you are dealing with a population, you have to use, there is a formula for the standard deviation for that. So let me go back here. Let's talk about this one. Let's even define what a population is. So a population is a complete collection of all the individuals, scores, people, measurement, and so on to be studied. The collection is complete in the sense that it includes all of the individuals to be studied. Suppose that you are in a university, for example, and you want to study like the ages of all the students in your university. So in that case, like all the students in that university represent the population. Now a sample is a sub collection of the members selected from a population. So as the definition states, a sample is like a portion, a small portion that you take from the population. So if you have an university, for example, and you decide to select all the freshman students, all the freshman students represent a portion of the entire population of the entire university. So in that case, like the freshmen will represent a sample, and then all the university students will represent the entire population. Okay, so there's different ways of calculating the standard deviation given a sample or given a population. So the standard deviation is actually of a set of sample values, the measure of variation of values about the mean. It's a type of deviation of values from the mean that is calculating using the following formula. So S is equal to the standard deviation, sample standard deviation is equal to S is equal to the square root of the sum I going from 1 to n of x sub I minus x bar squared divided by n minus 1. The population standard deviation, the sum I goes from 1 to n x sub I minus mu squared divided by n. So x bar here represent the mean of the sample, mu here represent the mean of the population. Okay, mean average of the population, if you would like to. X sub I is the variable usually used to represent the individual data values I. N represent the number of values in the data in the sample value in a sample. N, that the small n here that you see here represent the number of values in the sample. Capital letter N that you're seeing here represent the number of data values in the entire population. So as you can notice, there is a n minus 1 here and there is a n here. So here this is like the true standard deviation. But if your standard deviation is based on a sample, you will typically divide by n minus 1. Statistician has discovered that if you want to create a standard deviation that is very closer, like typically we take the sample to estimate the true standard deviation as sigma. Okay, so we use this one as an estimate for that one. So they have noticed that if they divide by n minus 1, it tends to be more accurate. It gives you a value that is closer to this one over here. So this is why we divide by n minus 1. Anyway, x bar is equal to the sum of every data values divided by n. Mu equal to the sum of all data values divided by capital letter N. Okay, so S, the notation S is equal to the sample standard deviation, and population standard deviation is denoted by a sigma. So to calculate the standard deviation sigma, lowercase sigma of a population, we divide by n instead of n minus 1. So in Excel, the function equal to stdev, standard deviation of a sample. In Excel, this function gives you the standard deviation of a sample when you enter it. So Excel will use this formula over here. Okay, for a population. Now if you press stdev p, Excel will use the second formula over here. Alright, so this here in our assignment here we have represent all the losses. So that means we have an entire population of losses. We do not have a small portion of all the losses that have occurred. So in that case, we are dealing with a population. The data set represents a population. Okay. So going back to the actual assignment, we were actually trying to answer a specific question. We find the losses, the mean, and the standard deviation, and that allow us to answer the following question. So here we're told to calculate the mean of the losses and the standard deviation of the losses. So here this is what we have obtained. We find the mean and the standard deviation of the losses. Next, we have calculated all the payments the insurance company is going to make to each customer. We've already done that. And here number 4, calculate all the mean and the standard deviation of the payment from the insurance company. That has been done, as we can see in the Excel. 2022 227 660.52. okay, this is what we have. And then the standard deviation 7643, that is already given. So I round it, so we can round it. Actually, let me round it real quick. I can come here, as you can see. That represent here I can decrease the decimals or I can increase the decimals. So I want to decrease the decimal. Let me put 1 decimal place. Yeah, that's it. So that answers question and then question 5 and then question 6. Okay, so now so we pretty much done question 3, 4, 5 and then 6. Okay, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. So